Sahanavavatu Sahanam Bhunaktu Sahaviryam Karavavahai Tejasvinavadhitamastu ma Vidvishavahai. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Today I have restricted speaking capacities. So we're going to do something different from the normal class. And what we're going to do is that we're going to try to have a Q&A, except that you will be doing the A bit as well. You will answer. So here is our chance to, okay, so in Vedanta, what happens? You learn about Vedanta. The consequence of learning about Vedanta should be that we gain clarity of thought. And then we're able to apply that in our life. So here's our chance today to see how much of that clarity we have gained. Now, clarity is not something that can be taught to us. It's something that we have to work on ourselves. So here's our chance to try and figure out whether we can, how clear are we in how we handle life? So what we're going to do is something like a small GD. You ask a question, anyone can ask a question. And somebody answers that question, and then we will discuss the question and the answer. Everybody can answer. There are very few rules in this. One rule is that you think before you speak, and that's an important rule. Another rule is write down the question before you start answering it. And another rule should be maybe switch on your video when you answer, so that somebody can see you as you talk. So I guess those are the few rules. Preferably write your answer down as well. Oh, Amal, are you new to class? Amal, first day, are you in the class first time today? So, does anyone have a question? Yeah, go ahead, Deepraj. For those who are joining right now, just let me repeat what I said.
which is that what we're going to do is examine how much clarity we have gained through our study of Vedanta. For that, we will do Q&A. Anyone can ask a question and anyone can answer the question. As many answers as you choose to give, it's fine. Then we discuss how we have discussed this, because that's very important. And there are very few rules. Think before you say anything. Write down the question you're trying to answer. Preferably write your answer as well. And put on your video so that the person you're answering can see you. So what we can do is, I'll give you 2 minutes for you to think of a question. And since you are required now to put on your video as well, many of you all may not have come dressed to class. So you can quickly make yourself presentable if you intend to say anything. Okay, so shall we listen to the Praj's question and then and then take a 2-minute break so that you have time to think as well. Okay, come Deepraj.
This is a question that pertains to more practical living. So when we get angry at something, we are in a heightened state of emotion. So our intellect isn't able to think clearly. But that little bit of intellect that we have tells us to not take any decision at the meantime and just to cool off. So we don't react. So our physical body doesn't react, but the mental agitation still remains. So once we have not reacted, we have made sure that the physical is taken care of. Next, we retrieve and we understand what created that negative emotion. Is that a correct pathway, or is it?
Sorry, can you just repeat that last line again?
Yes. Once we have made sure that we didn't have any physical reaction, we're still mentally agitated, but we didn't have any physical reaction because we understood that we are in a emotionally heightened state. Next step is to withdraw and think about what created that negative emotion to begin. Is that correct?
Okay, so let's everybody write the question. We'll all take 2 minutes to think about the question. And we'll come back and answer Deepraj. If anybody has an answer, they can tell Deepraj.
वीडियो ऑन करना है नहीं?
Can I say something regarding Madeline's answer? Madeline, this is more to understand, like the point is to understand where the negative emotion came from, than to assess the situation.
Deepraj, can you repeat? What did you say? Understand?
Yes, so this is regarding practicality. So say we're dealing with a situation and the situation made us angry. Any sort of heightened state of emotion would do, any state that suppresses the function of the intellect. So in the meantime, the little bit of intellect that we have tells us that we shouldn't react to that in that particular moment. And then after that, we assess, once the situation has passed, we withdraw and we assess the source of the negative emotion. So my question is it a correct thing to do? Yeah. Are there more steps included? Is there a flaw in my reasoning, in a sense, that this is a situation in which this is an incorrect thing to do, and alternative would be a better option?
Deepraj, Madeline just told you what is the alternative, but you said, no, I don't want the alternative. I want to know about emotions.
Yes.
So you're not asking for an alternative. If you're asking, how do you even have a question if you say you want to know about the emotion? You're saying is, what you said is, when we get angry and have not reacted but are agitated, is the next step to think, why are we agitated? That's what your question is.
Yes.
So Madeline says that, let me read her answer again. Yes, become the observer, assess situation correctly in order to respond correctly.
Okay.
So she says, okay, all that is fine, I guess. But the important thing is figure out how you're going to respond. That's your alternative. But you responded to her by saying, no, I want to know about emotion.
Okay. It is more regarding the second step, to understanding the emotions part.
So then your question should be, how do we understand emotions?
Okay.
Isn't it? Is that what you're trying to ask?
Yes.
So
How do you get to the source so that next time a similar situation comes in, we already know?
Do we even need to do that? You didn't ask that question. We need to know our emotions so that we know what to do if a similar situation comes.
Aren't the emotions that are creating the chaos?
Right. So when you say creating chaos, chaos is created where?
In the mind.
And therefore, so what? Emotions are creating chaos in the mind doesn't tell us anything, because, well, that is the situation. Emotions are in the mind, they'll create chaos in the mind, so that doesn't tell us anything. The real chaos, which is the problem, is the chaos in
the real world.
In action.
In action.
What you do is the chaos. What you think is not the chaos so much as what you eventually do. Because what you do is now going to create further chaos. Or not, as the case may be.
But the mental agitations still stay unless we assess the situation correctly. Right?
Yeah, you have to be clear. What is it? What is your question? You have to be clear first. What is it you're trying to establish or not establish? So maybe you should take a couple of minutes to just figure out what is it you'd like to know.
Thank you.
Amal, is this your first class? Okay. You are muted, so I can't hear a word you're saying. You're muted.
You hear me now? Okay. I'm, I'm in Beirut, that's why.
Okay.
It's complicated because I am in Beirut, in Lebanon. So there is no electricity, so I'm trying to do my best.
Oh, okay, okay. All right. Anyway,
Actually,
so normally we are studying.
Now, do you hear me now?
Yes.
Okay, I am a friend of Ganga.
Oh, okay.
She's, she is, I know her since we were 17, now we are 60. And she told me about your, sorry, my English is not that bad. I'm more speak French.
Oh, okay.
So she taught me, she spoke to me about these courses. And since 10 days, I saw all your YouTubes lessons, and it helps me so much. It's really something very, very important for me. And now she called me from Paris. She told me, don't forget tomorrow, if you have electricity in Beirut, and if you have Wi-Fi, join us. So I know a little bit, and I do really, it's something I discovered which is not, I don't want to say changing my life, because I know there's a lot of work to do, but it's very important for me.
Yes. I'm so glad we have this. COVID gave us this opportunity that people can now, otherwise it would be only if you were in Mumbai, only if you were available in a certain geographical location.
Yeah, imagine, yeah. I'm in Beirut, I mean. I am directly with you. It's wonderful.
Yes, it is. So what we do in this class, as you already know, is we study Vedanta treaties. But today we just took a pause and we are going to figure out about our thinking capacities. Because eventually that's where Vedanta has to lead us, that we learn to think. In the world, what will help you is how you think. And if you want to read the transcendental, what will help you is how you think. So we are going to do only this much today. We are not doing any text. We are not getting any information today. We're just going to learn how to process information. It is the processing of the information that's usually the problem in our life. Right? So, Deepraj, you would like to tell us, you have a question, or you'll come back to us later?
I'll come back later.
Okay. Does anyone else have a question?
I had a clarification, Jankiji, on Deepraj's question. He was like, when you're angry, the mind is agitated. Intellect shuts off. So should I withdraw or should I act? I think that's what he was trying to get at.
Deepraj, is that what you're trying to get at?
No, because that's actually what Madeline actually answered regarding that, is to understand it, to figure out whether you should act.
Okay, so you're assuming that the intellect does shut off when you're angry.
Yeah, there's a slight bit left that tells us to not react in the situation.
My understanding, and I hope anybody can correct me, is that the mind is agitated when you're angry, but the intellect should be strong enough to control the mind at that point, to channel your anger and express yourself properly. So the intellect should control the mind at that time. It should be strong enough to control the mind. If it's not strong enough, it's better to keep quiet. But if the intellect is strong enough, then it should control the mind and express yourself properly.
If necessary.
Yes.
And the process of strengthening the intellect would be
Practice, just like how you cycle. If you get on the bike, you have dangers of falling. So you shouldn't stop riding. You should just keep trying balancing yourself. So similar situations will keep coming up where you will be angered. Often it will be the same thing because you're not learned the lesson that you have to learn. So in life, the same situations keep coming. And that's when you realize that in the past, I've kept quiet and I've withheld my anger and bottled it up. Maybe that's not the right thing. Right thing is to use the intellect to govern the mind and express your anger channel the anger in the proper way. So practice is what I have felt in my life.
So, Madeline, is the same thing when you said to become the observer and analyze the situation? Or am I just not understanding any better? Thank you, Naeem, for the answer. I will think about it.
Sure.
Anger is linked to desires that are not fulfilled. So maybe observe these desires. That's what you mean by becoming the observer. Thank you, Madeline, for the answer. Janki, we can move on to the next one. Thank you.
Amal, you had a question. Only one thing I'd like to add. Please don't think that only practice, Naeem, only practice will not give you an intellect. What will give you an intellect?
Reflection, pondering, and morning studies, definitely.
It's not just a glib answer we keep giving that, every now and then we get bored with that answer and try to give something more interesting. That is the way. So everything it's based on that. Because if our whole way of processing is not corrected, then you'll never think it through properly in the first place. So you're practicing, but you may be practicing something incorrect because the base may not be clear. So that's why morning studies is, if you say development of intellect as a rule, you have to say morning studies. However boring that may be, and however much you may think everybody has heard it now, they'll say all I do is say the same thing. Never mind, that's the way. So Amal, you have
yeah, you're hearing me?
Yes.
Okay, there is something I find it difficult when you are talking about studying in the morning. I always maybe you have to think about, there is 10 minutes or a few minutes of, you read something that inspire you, then you can think about it. And this is practicing. Is it right? But I don't know which text I will use. I need, maybe because my education is a Christian, so we had the New Testament, we had different things. But I need something, I don't know what are the texts I can use every morning. This is it.
Who will answer? Amal. Yes, Madeline, go ahead.
Hello, Amal. I'm
Hello.
very happy to see you again. She's a friend of mine also. I would suggest you buy online the Vedanta treatise. I can send you the links because I find this an excellent introduction. And you go through the text. It is so understandable. You will be surprised how much you will understand, because it is very, very clear. This would be my suggestion. This is how I really started, is going through the Vedanta treatise. And then slowly, slowly, you can join one of the groups and we go paragraph through paragraph. I would say that, or the second one is How Do You Know What You Know? It's the second book by Jankiji. I would say these two. I can send you the links. You can find them. You can find them in the internet. Maybe somebody else has another idea. This would be my suggestion.
Okay. I'll be eager.
You would see they're so clear.
Ganga, she will offer me the how to know. She was so happy that I really went into, but it helps me. Okay, so if you can send.
Yes, I will.
My French phone number. So, okay, thank you very much, Madeleine. Thank you.
Does anyone have anything further to say to Amal? Okay, so one book you may also consider, Amal, is Fall of the Human Intellect. It's a good preliminary first thing. Vedanta treatise is everything. That book contains everything about Vedanta. I mean, you're unlikely to find something which is in Vedanta and is not in that book. So, yeah, so it just contains everything from the very basics to the end of the philosophy. Now, if you find that doable, as Madeleine says, that's great, do that. If you wanted to start even like more simple, then Follow the Human Intellect by the same author as of Vedanta.
Okay, thank you. Okay, thank you. Thank you, Madeleine.
All right, so Manoj, you have a question. Is this your question?
Yes, madam. So I've written down the question. We have urged to help others, and sometimes when it is not asked, but we see if they get it or do follow, will help one. Where do we draw line to such urges, as a lot of people don't ask or consider it as disturbing to them? Doing only what you ought to do and keep quiet seems, seeing others in pain seems indifference. Myself and others also start labeling same.
Okay. So let us think about the question for 2 minutes, and then if anyone has an answer for Manoj, please tell me. Would anyone like to answer, Manoj? Oh, you are all writing your answers down. Don't want to switch your video on, is it? That's the situation. So Manoj, I hope you're reading, they're giving you all the pointers. Anjani, are you also new? I don't think I've seen you before. Anjani? Okay, does this help you, Manoj?
Yeah, to some extent, yes, madam. I do follow some of these advices which are mentioned, like in context to kids and adults, like both cases. Then, like I try to exercise a sense of proportion, like to what extent, what, like this suggestion says, like you should offer it. If it is accepted, then you should go ahead and help. So, but then like that sense of proportion does not remain always, and sometimes you retract a lot, sometimes you go and cross the like sometime limits also.
Yes. So for that, it's nothing but development of the intellect. Because nobody can actually tell us in that situation what we're supposed to do. When the situation is there, and we are there. Nobody's at that moment there to guide us. So the only way we will know what to do is if we develop the intellect. Our own discrimination, our viveka buddhi has to tell us, right? And that's where Nine's point about practice comes. So now you figure out, in these situations, I did a little too much. In these situations, I did a little less. So as you contemplate on that, you realize, okay, this was too much, too little. Then next time in similar situations, you can modulate your behavior accordingly, according to what you have learned. But I hate to say this, but you have to get up and study. There is no alternative to that. You will say only one answer she has here. What to do? I have only one answer. Only else. Unless we apply ourselves to that knowledge. It's like, how do I develop my biceps? It's by lifting weights. I mean, there's no other way to do this. So you'd say that, oh, but when I had to pick that particular bag up, I couldn't. I just couldn't. So what would your instructor say? Well, then go practice weights some more. And then one day you'll be able to.
Thank you, madam.
All right, only a thing of concern, since we are in a class of learning to think, you have said doing only what one ought to do. Okay. So you have to understand what you mean by what one ought to do. If you do only what you ought to do, you're living a perfect life. What you ought to do means that you have in every situation done what is necessary to be done. So you can't say doing only what you ought to do. That is the definition of a perfect life, that you do only what you ought to do. You don't do any more, you don't do any less, you don't do anything you shouldn't do, you don't leave out anything you should do. You only do what you ought to do.
Thank you. Thanks a lot, ma'am.
Hariom, ma'am, can I ask a question on this?
Yeah, 1 second, Ganesh. Just read what is there. Bharat says no one will accept help only if they feel they have a problem. Some don't even realize there's a problem. Knowledge or help has to be requested. Trusting it is creating another problem. Yeah. David Starr Jordan says the most highly developed organization shows the greatest imperfections. This is a contradicting statement. What does it mean? How do you aware of your imperfections? Oh, okay, I think that's a question, right, Milind? So Ganesh, we'll come to you because Milind has written his question.
Yeah, this is my question. How do you aware of your imperfections?
Okay, so we'll pause for 2 minutes and take up Milind's question. He has 2 questions. What does David Starr Jordan's sentence mean? And secondly, how do you become aware of your imperfections? Isn't it? You've got 2 questions, right?
Yeah, madam.
Anybody has an answer? Deep Raj, where is this quote from? Milind, please tell him.
This is from Vedanta Treatise.
Yeah, but that doesn't help him. You have to tell him page number, topic.
Page number 49. It is under Nature of the World, page number 49.
Okay.
Chapter 3.
Does anyone wish to answer, Milind?
Imperfections, if you're not happy, that means that part of your life is imperfect.
Oh, you and Asha have the same answer.
It's correct, no, ma'am.
It is partially correct, yes. But that is not within the scope of the sentence in the context it is.
Good morning, Janki ji. When you talk about imperfections, sometimes one does not realize that there's some flaws in your behavior, for example, unless someone tells you, or you're not ready to accept it. You think you are perfect. But you're right in the first, when the other 2 people answered that when you're not happy, then obviously there's something there which is not so perfect not perfect, but something's not correct there. So I find that sometimes I realize thereafter that this is not the way I should have said something or behaved in this manner. And I judge myself on that. That's an imperfect action or thinking.
Okay, so if you all look, you all are just seeing the quote in isolation. So please go back as Deepraj has done, read where it is from. I'm going to read to you, or well, somebody please read. Milind, sorry, not Deepraj. Milind, please read the previous paragraph and this paragraph so that everybody knows what is this quote referring to? What imperfections are we talking about here?
Okay, I will read that 2 paragraphs. The world is sometimes cruel only to be kind. Realize that. Do not abuse the plan of nature. Do not fall a prey to cynicism or pessimism in life. Instead, look at the world constructively. Does not a sportsman improve his game with strong opposition? Does not trade flourish with stiff competition? Does not a government stabilize with healthy coalition? Thus, make a good use of apparent antagonism of nature to rise the greater heights of problem.
Of problem?
Perfection, heights of perfection, greater heights of perfection. A great evolutionist, Dr. David Starr Jordan says, in our discussion of social evolution, we must remember that the very perfection of society must always appear as an imperfection. For a highly developed society is a dynamic. A static society is in a condition of arrested development. The most highly developed organism shows greatest imperfections. Imperfection is inherent in nature. Resist not evil are the blessed words of Jesus Christ. Do not merely complain of evil. Instead, try to overcome it if you can. If you succeed, other imperfections will rise to the surface. Again, overpower them. This is the way to deal with the world. To keep on striving and correcting until you reach the state of absolute perfection within yourself.
Okay, so in this context, it's talking about the imperfections which we see outside. Not referring to our own imperfections, but to what we are seeing outside. We're seeing an imperfect world. And that for us today is a fact. We are seeing an imperfect world. We find that there is a problem with my spouse, with my children, with the government, with the traffic, with health, with COVID, with, I don't know, war and corruption and all sorts of things. So he very intelligently says, if the world is cruel to you, then it is being cruel only to be kind. Do not abuse this plan of nature. What is abusing this plan of nature? That you say, oh, it's so sad, and then you give up. Or you become pessimistic, you become cynical. You say, I can't do this, I can't do that, I can't do that. Instead of saying, I can't do this and I can't do that, we should be saying,
what can I do?
What can I do?
Can I do? Otherwise, we can become very pessimistic and cynical, right? Like imagine if you're living in Syria, for instance. All over you, all around you, there are bombs falling and people are just killing people. Or anywhere, you go to Kashmir or anywhere, people just killing everybody. Why are you killing everybody? You know, like, what happened to dialogue? What happened to discussion? So, why does state come about? Because some people, at least, I believe, it's useless to dialogue. Nothing will happen. You must go kill them. So now the question is, let's not fall a prey to all this, what can't be done, and things are so bad, and look at how COVID has treated us so badly. We've all been locked up in our homes, so many bad things. Like Amal is in Beirut. She says, I don't know whether I will have electricity or Wi-Fi. That could be a great positive thing, because that definitely reduces screen time. those who have unlimited Wi-Fi and electricity use it to ruin themselves. People are watching screens so much that their capacity of thinking is going down to zero. There is nothing wrong in watching a screen, but please notice what you're doing while you're watching a screen. Even right now, you're watching a screen. So certainly we can't say there's something bad in it. But what are we doing? Why was the TV referred to as a idiot box? Do you notice when you don't want to think, when you don't want to put in effort, what do? You go plunk yourself in front of a TV. Suppose you didn't have a TV, what would you go and do? You go plunk yourself in front of the ocean or something. You know, in olden times, or at least poorer people, they go sit by the seaside or they go for a walk because they don't have the facilities. When you are by yourself, when you're not surrounded by these things, your own thoughts start gelling in the head. But if there's always some light blinking at you, your mind can't think. So every aspect, remember where we were? Don't get involved. What's the point we're discussing?
Perfections.
So why are we into watching screen and screen time?
Entertainment.
Not paying attention. Why? How did it screen time? You should have all got up and said, what is the connection? What is the question? What is the answer? No connection.
Don't be negative.
Oh, electricity going.
Okay, so?
No.
Electricity going, so you have an option to use things. You can use your time more wisely than screen.
Yeah. Okay, so remember the flow. The flow point is that there is trouble in the world. Electricity is gone. So for us now, that is trouble. But don't take it negatively, as Asha tells us. Don't take it negatively. Use it. Because remember that the highest developed souls will show the maximum imperfection. A tiger is perfect in itself. A cow is perfect in itself. A rose bush is perfect in itself. But a human being, which is the chef d'oeuvre of creation, most imperfect. Why? Because the moment the quality goes up, your expectations from that thing go up. In Arun, I can't give the example of the electricity in Delhi and Bombay now, but there was a time in Delhi where electricity would go and people would just grumble, and that's just part of life. In Mumbai, if electricity goes, it will become headline news. In New York, if electricity goes, they will have studies on it, and I don't know what they will do. Because their reaction, electricity went. They don't understand how this could even happen. What horrible thing has happened? That our grid has got affected. Same thing, maybe in Beirut, that when electricity goes, is it headline news? No, it's just maybe normal life. So the more something people will write a book on how bad Mother Teresa is. Why? Because you're expecting perfection. Have you seen there are actually books like that? How all the negative things about Gandhi. Why? Because you're expecting perfection. Think of it like this. If it's a white wall and there's a single speck of black on it, it becomes very easily seen. So the more developed something is, the better it is. The more it will appear imperfect. See, we people, we wear whatever we want, we go outside. Okay, suppose Aishwarya Rai or Angelina Jolie or whoever. Who's your favorite star, Amal? Who's your favorite star among? I don't know which are the French stars? Who's a good French? Both of y'all are looking absolutely lost. There's no film industry in France. Okay, so Angelina Jolie, I think everybody would. Suppose Angelina Jolie went into the bazaar looking how we looked, it will be headline news. Because she's expected to look at her very best at all times. If in a movie, if she wakes up from bed also, she'll be fully, I never see any human being get up from bed the way in the movies they show the people have gotten up. All of them perfectly coiffed. So the better something is, the more you will find something wrong with it. The less racism there is, the more it will be pointed out. The less poverty there is, the more it will be pointed out. Because it is different from the norm or the expected, whatever. Okay, so when you see something negative, suppose I say, my husband, he doesn't even remember my birthday. So I found an imperfection in him. He doesn't remember my birthday. So what does this tell you about my husband? Suppose I say, my husband doesn't even remember my birthday. What does it tell you about my husband?
He's good at remembering other things.
Yeah.
Good
And
memory.
obviously, he's healthy. He's not an alcoholic. He's earning well. He's not troubling me in any other way. He doesn't beat me up. Isn't it? Then why am I grumbling that he doesn't remember my birthday? Because of all the other things being correct. Otherwise, I'd complain about that. Suppose he was alcoholic. Would I be complaining that he doesn't remember my birthday? Suppose he was suffering from some horrible terminal ailment. Would I complain that he doesn't remember my birthday? It would all seem futile, no? Okay, this is just an example, okay? Because I think many of you take me seriously when I give examples. I'm not referring to him in actuality. He remembers, don't worry. And if he doesn't, there are plenty of people to remind him. So no problem on that front. Okay, so is that clear? That the more something is perfect, the more imperfections we will see. This is in the external world. We're not talking about internal world, external world. And so when you see these imperfections, just try to understand that it is the very perfection that gives forth imperfection. Suppose we are grumbling that our government is so inefficient, no paper moves in those government offices. Then we are actually saying that we don't live under a fascist regime or something where people just come, some regime, autocratic regime where people just come take you from your house and guillotine you or something. We don't live in that kind of a regime. We live in a relatively free place where that's why you're grumbling about the paperwork being slow in government offices. But the government can do a lot worse. You know how much power a government has? It can do a lot worse if it chooses to. Are you okay, Milind?
Yes, Janki.
Hi, ma'am. Can I ask now?
Yes, please.
So 2 questions with regard to the chapter that we're doing in VT, Vedanta Treatise. So the first one, we speak about all happiness is due to the self, and the light of the sun and the mirror is given by Swamiji. Now I feel, or I have a small, I I thought about it, and it's more to do with your likes and dislikes, right? That is question one. And question two, I think we say that each person is based on his vasanas and we cannot change him. And we give the example of a husband and wife, where a husband may not care about his wife. And generally the answer which Vedanta treatise gives is to ignore or look at other ways. But for a human being, the general population, right, the Rajasic population, is getting validation very important. And without validation, you really have a very troublesome time in the world. So these are my two questions.
Ganesh, these two questions are not related, no?
No, not related.
Okay, so let's take the first one then. Okay, so we just take a 1 minute pause and you all can think of the first question, where Ganesh seems to think that Ganesh says, Vedanta treatise says all happiness is from the self, but he feels that happiness is a function of our likes and dislikes being fulfilled. So where is the question of it being from the self? So can anyone explain that?
No, overall, I understand that self is enlivening, but I understand that and everything comes to the self enlivening. But I don't buy that explanation because, okay, I understand, but I'm not able to understand that part.
Okay, so let anyone try and tell us.
Maybe I can try. So Ganesh, all the self is the seat of ultimate bliss. All the agitations come from the ignorance of the self. In fact, the other name for vasanas is ignorance of the self. So when we are ignorant of the fact that the self is the ultimate bliss, we look for happiness, which is our original state. We create the world to get the happiness. So what that happens is it creates desires. That desire is a state where the original happiness that we have kind of gets blurred. And when we do get that object, like, it is like the happiness that you kind of get when you see that there is a mirage and you go after the mirage. And you feel like when you get to that mirage, you're going to get the, water that you've always wanted. But when you do get to the mirage, there is nothing there. And you just get to the, okay, that is probably not a good analogy in this situation.
I understand ignorance of self.
Yes, it is identification of happiness in something other than the self. The world is created out of that ignorance. So you go after the object, and you go after the object because because of that ignorance that object is going to give you pleasure. And when you do get that object, that agitation kind of ceases, and you think that the pleasure is derived from that object. But it is just you coming back to the original state that you were before you were agitated by that object. I don't know if that makes sense, Ganesh.
Yes, to some extent, yes.
Bharat has also answered you, Ganesh.
Yes.
So, yeah, so basically all happiness is from, I'm just going to do it quickly since we're at the end. All happiness is from the self. All desires cover that self. So when you fulfill a desire, which means you remove the desire, you no longer have an unfulfilled desire, you experience happiness, which is the self. You experience more happiness, which is the self.
You remove the desire. Got it.
Yeah, when you fulfill a desire, you no longer have an unfulfilled desire.
And that is either by fulfilling or having a higher ideal.
Yeah, either way. Whatever, as long as the desire is not there, or however way you manage that, you will experience happiness.
Great one. And second question?
The second question, 11:30.
Okay.
So now we'll quit here for today. Now about tomorrow, we